But the other big story is migrants and that judgment last week on Friday when the government, the Home Office, took the people of Epping to court. They'd won. Migrants weren't allowed to stay in hotels. This is really interesting because the judge who ruled the Epping Migrant Hotel can stay open is reported to the Conduct Office by a fellow judge this morning over historic links to a left-wing organisation, including the Fabian Society that was chairman of between 89 and 90. We're delighted to say good morning to Peter Lloyd, journalist and Sunday Times best-selling author. Peter, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. I was going to say, wow, Mike, you look great. You must be on the Ozempic.
You what?
I was going to say, hello, Mike. You look great. You look like you must be on the Ozempic. You're looking better than ever.
I've been working out. Mike doesn't even sound like that. What are you talking about? He looks much better. You look very... I thought I was interviewing Ryland for a moment. What's going on?
Oh, my goodness. Thanks, Jeddah.
I'm joking. Listen, really appreciate you being on. I know you're a busy man. I mean, it is extraordinary when you dig. I mean, when I found out the name of this judge, that was bad enough, Mr. Bean. And then it transpires that Mr. Bean is no doubt part of that left-wing human rights lawyer cabal that includes his well-known friend Lord Herman. No, he's not. He's the one, the Attorney General, who's responsible for Lucy Connolly. And then it turns out he was in fact in charge of the Fabian Society as chairman for a year. Another one of Starmer's mates. And I was saying earlier, Pete, you can imagine while the country was on tenterhooks on Friday, you know, concerned about this whole thing because it's affecting so many people, and many people were pleased to see the original judgment. And I'm sitting there on air thinking, you're going to try and go against the British people. You've put yourself in the most ridiculous position. Starmer was presumably somewhere rubbing his hands knowing that one of his lefty mates was going to give him the answer he wanted, buddy.
Oh, of course. And it wasn't just Justice Bean. Like you say, Justice Bean was a member of the Fabian Society. He was also an auditor for the Society of Labour Lawyers, a very left-wing socialist think tank. The two other judges on the panel were also connected to Labour. You had Justice Nicola Davies. She is a Labour voting feminist and Welsh nationalist. You also had Justice Cobb. He wanted to famously overturn Brexit because he didn't like it. These three judges are all compromised. In any other industry, in any other universe, they would have to declare a conflict of interests. But because the establishment is rigged, they haven't had to, and instead they've been able to give the government what they wanted, which is access to asylum hotels. It's appalling. It's such a rigged system.
It's really interesting when you say establishment rigged. We had Richard Tice, Deputy of Reform, on earlier, and I put to him a question that I get asked the whole time, which is, you know, we hear the blob runs the, you know, the blob is so instrumental, 10,000 in government, and yet 200 people lose their jobs when a government changes, spads and ministers, and how the blob... Right. And I always say, you know, Reform will say, we're going to take the blob on. And people phone and text and go, well, how? Because nobody else seems to. Richard made a really good point this morning. The judges, so much of our justice system can also be labelled as part of the blob. It is an establishment and it is rigged. And I find it astonishing, hand on heart, mate, that a man elected by the people of this country, not his left-wing human rights mates, has got so little intelligence that he thinks it would be a good idea to go against the electorate just to back up his mates. It's extraordinary. And how short-sighted, Peter.
Oh, absolutely. But of course, don't forget, they've been able to get away with this operational behaviour for decades because the media was tightly controlled. All of the outlets, the newspapers were tightly controlled. The narrative was tightly controlled. Now, thanks to Elon Musk and Twitter X, we're able to have a voice and we're able to highlight the corruption. And, you know, I appreciate that it might sound conspiratorial to say that the establishment is rigged, but actually, that's always what these people wanted. If you go
I'm not sure it does sound conspiratorial. I remember on Drive Time doing the terrible story about Rotherham and the call for a national inquiry, and it was no, and the Labour Party went off for their Easter recess. And I remember being on air thinking, there must be so many parts of our society, be it the police or local government or central government or social services, that are entwined in what not in not wanting to get to the bottom of the most appalling story. And when you look at this, migrants today, £300,000 new houses. You can stay in England. I covered a story last week about a poor girl on Dorset Beach, Bournemouth Beach in Dorset, Pete. A migrant who'd been in the country but hours put his hands down the back and front of her trousers. The court comes and the judge goes, it's a mere aberration. He's had a very hard upbringing. He can stay here forever. Well, I don't mean to be disrespectful, right? But I didn't think putting your hands down the back of a girl's trousers is because of your upbringing, because that insults every person who ever came from a poor background that's always lived their lives correctly and never broken the bloody law.
Exactly. Funnily enough, I've actually just done a report with the New Culture Forum about the rape statistics in Liverpool, my home city. The rape statistics there have doubled within 10 years. Not because the local men have suddenly become predators, it's because they've invited in thousands of savage migrants. And every single city leader, from the council to the police to the mayor, none of them will acknowledge it. Many of these people have even blocked me on social media because they don't want to face the reality. These people are all corrupt, and now, thanks to you and platforms like Talk, we're able to have a voice and we're able to highlight it, and that hopefully will feel more protests.
And can't and won't accept. The British people will no longer accept being fudged. Very quickly, we've got some breaking news. I told you earlier that the number 10 communications director, James Lyons, has quit. How do you sell something you don't believe in? Breaking news from Downing Street. Cabinet Minister Darren Jones, isn't he the one who said that most of the people on the boats are women and children, yeah? He's just been appointed to a new position in Keir Starmer's Downing Street, previously Chief Secretary to the Treasury. Obviously wants nothing to do with the budget. He will now be... This is even worse. He'll be now responsible for helping deliver the Prime Minister's priorities as Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister. A Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister. So we don't want anything to do with the budget because that's going to be crap. You're now going to be allied entirely to a man who's going to go down in history as one of the worst Prime Ministers ever. Quick response from you, my friend.
What could possibly go right?
Love having you on. Thanks for saying I'm the new slimline Mike Graham. Peter Lloyd, journalist and Sunday Times best-selling author. Thank you. This is Talk Drive. No, it's not. It's Talk Breakfast. You see what happens? It happens. It's life. It's 10 to 10.